What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Modern Warfare 2. And in today's episode, we're going to be covering the brand new Season 4 SMG. This is the ISO 45. And starting it off as always, let's have a look at our damage profile. And with this gun, it's going to be a 3 to 7 shot kill depending on where in the body you hit them as well as what range you're at. In order to get that 3-shot kill, 2 of those shots have to hit the torso, and then the other one can hit them anywhere else in the body. And in the second damage range, it's worth noting that damage range is not very forgiving. You have to hit all shots to the torso if you want to maintain a 4-shot kill, or of course you could mix headshots in there. Which, speaking of headshots, we actually can get a 2-shot kill to the head right up close and personal, as long as both shots are able to hit the head. As for our rate of fire, this is quite fast at 896 rounds per minute, and what this means is with a 3-shot kill, this is the fastest killing full auto SMG in the entire game at just 134 milliseconds. This is a nearly instant time to kill, and there really aren't too many guns that will reliably compete with this within that maximum damage range, but even with a 4-shot kill, it's still got a very competitive time to kill at 201 milliseconds. Then let's move on to our bullet velocity, which is quite solid for an SMG at 540 meters per second. And then let's get into our ranges. And this is where you start to see a bit of that downside. That crazy time to kill potential only extends out to 8.9 meters. So it is a fairly small range window where this gun is dominant, but within that range window, like I said, there's almost nothing that can reliably compete with this. Then let's have a look at our hipfire spread, and it's just standard for SMGs here. It's really nothing out of the ordinary. And now let's get into recoil, and this gun does have quite a bit of recoil. That is another downside to keep this gun in check. While it does kick generally straight upwards in a line, it does zigzag back and forth a fair amount, and the initial shots fired also have quite a big jump between them. And therefore, with this gun, I definitely recommend using an attachment that helps with recoil stabilization to prevent some of that side-to-side bounce. And then I would also focus primarily on vertical recoil control rather than horizontal, because it doesn't really drift horizontally all that much. In saying that, even with attachments on this, it's still going to have quite a bit of recoil, and I will say that definitely holds this gun back at those longer ranges. Even with the right setup, you generally don't want to be trying to stretch the ranges out, and that does keep this gun fairly limited to close quarter situations. Next up, let's have a look at our handling stats, and our aim down sight time is pretty standard for an SMG at 220 milliseconds, and our sprint out time is also exactly the same as all of the other SMGs at 110 milliseconds for our standard sprint out time and 210 milliseconds for our tactical sprint out time. Then let's have a look at our reload add time, and this is pretty good for an SMG at 1.42 seconds. That is very noticeably above average. And then finally, for the base stats of this gun with no attachments, let's move into our mobility stats. And with this, our base movement speed is actually a bit slow for an SMG. However, our sprint speed is well above average. It's only beat out by the Fennec at 6.31 meters per second. This is a very solid sprint speed, so you can sprint to positions really quickly. But like I said, your base movement speed's a bit below average for an SMG, and it's a similar story with our aim walking movement speed. It's just a little bit below average here. Nothing really too far out of the ordinary. It just doesn't excel in this area. It just really excels with sprint speed. And that right there covers it for the base stats of this gun. Now let's move on to some unique attachments. And the first one I want to talk about is very unique with this gun. This is the 12-round magazine. And you might be thinking, why would I use 12 rounds? Well, in this case, it actually locks this into semi-auto with a rate of fire of 556 rounds per minute, which is a very fast rate of fire cap for a semi-auto. It also completely changes up our damage profile, so it's now a 2 to 4 shot kill. However, that 2-shot kill potential does require those shots to hit the upper torso, neck, or head. Any limb shots mixed in there will now make it a 3-shot kill. So while we do have a ridiculous time to kill potential with that 2-shot at 108 milliseconds, it's not going to be very consistent with that. More often than not, this would end up being a 3-shot kill with 216 millisecond time to kill, which is not bad, but it's also not amazing by any means. However, when we look at recoil, we can also see it is very, very accurate in this semi-auto mode. We also get some great movement speed buffs here, a great aim down sight speed buff at 165 milliseconds. Our sprint out time is also very, very fast at 80 milliseconds. So there definitely are some benefits to using this 12-round mag, and I wouldn't write it off completely. I think it is a good attachment, a fun attachment. I just don't think it's the most competitive way to use the ISO 45. And I think most people would rather stick to these standard magazines in full auto. And with that out of the way, let's move on to some of the other unique attachments on this gun, and let's have a look at the barrel attachments and how they impact our ranges. As you can see here, the first 2 barrels are shorter barrels that will harm our ranges, whereas the second 2 will increase our ranges, the best one here being the 9-inch trainer barrel. This one increases our damage ranges by 16%. Then let's have a look at how these barrels impact our recoil, and as you can see here, the 16-inch XLBS barrel, which is the one with the integrated suppressor, will give us the best recoil overall. However, it's worth noting integrated suppressors are still not working properly, and if you're using that combined with Ghost, when you fire your gun, your Ghost perk will be disabled, which is totally backwards and not working the same as the regular muzzle suppressors. And then finally for the barrels, let's have a look at how they impact our aim down sight speeds. And as expected, those first two short barrels, they will be improving our aim down sight speed a little bit, whereas the longer barrels will be harming our aim down sight speed by a fairly noticeable margin. As for magazines, we already covered the 12 round. This improves our aim down sight speed to 165 milliseconds, whereas the 45 round drum doesn't really hurt our aim down sight speed all that much. It's just 240 milliseconds with that magazine, which is not bad at all, and I would highly recommend this attachment, especially due to the really high fire rate of this gun. And now that we have all the important stats covered, let's move into some great attachment combinations that I found so far. And the first one I want to share is my all-around build, where it's designed to be fairly versatile. And with this, we're using the XRK Sandstorm muzzle, just because vertical recoil control is quite important with this. You could also use the Broom Pendulum if you'd like. We've got the Commando foregrip, the 45 round drum mag, the EXT sheer rear grip, which helps with sprint out time and aim down sight speed, and the SK3 Cheetah stock, which helps with our aim walking movement speed, aim down sight speed, crouch movement speed, sprint speed. It helps with quite a bit of movement, which really helps this gun close those gaps and get into those close quarters where it really excels. Now with this, our aim down sight time is noticeably slower than the base, but for me that is worth it for all of these other benefits. Our sprint out time is also very solid at 100 milliseconds. And you can see with our recoil that it's nicely improved from the base recoil. Keep in mind, that's a 45 round recoil plot compared to a 30 round. So when you factor that in, that's noticeably improved in the recoil department. And just overall, this has been my favorite way to use the ISO so far. As for the second build that I wanted to share for you guys, I did want to share a build with that 12 round mag in semi-auto, because I know that will appeal at least to some people, and I would at least recommend giving it a shot. Now with this, we're using the Broom Pendulum, since with semi-auto mode, it does kick a little bit side to side, more so than it would in full auto mode. We've got the Commando foregrip, the 12 round mag, the Slimline Pro optic, although that's completely optional. I just find I like that little bit of extra aiming precision. And then finally, we have that SK3 Cheetah stock, this time tuned for aim walking speed and aim walking steadiness. And with this, we have a very good aim down sight speed, an amazing sprint out time, a very, very solid aim walking movement speed as well, especially with that 12 round mag and the Cheetah stock combined. This gives us a very competitive aim walking movement speed, so you can strafe side to side in gunfights a lot. And there is also very, very little recoil with this gun. It's super accurate and easy to control. So like I said, while this isn't my preferred method of using the ISO 45, I'd at least recommend giving it a go, especially if you like semi-auto guns, because I do think you'll be quite impressed with this gun. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the ISO 45. As for my thoughts on this gun, I do think it is the best close-range SMG in the entire game, but I also feel like they kept it in check fairly nicely, especially with that recoil, to where it's definitely not the most versatile SMG out there. I really don't feel comfortable challenging gunfights beyond like 20 to 25 meters or so, but if you can keep yourself right up close and personal, you're going to be absolutely dominant with this gun. Now, of course, those are just my opinions, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about the ISO in the comments down below. If you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, I've covered every gun in the game aside from the new assault rifle, which I will be covering within the next 2 to 3 days or so. I will leave a link to the playlist in the description down below. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.